Hi gaming guys, and welcome to the second episode in our relatively short series of vehicles which aren't necessarily bad cars, because to say a car is bad is a very strong term as far as I'm concerned, but these are cars which are just not as good as the alternatives which are already featured on the game. Now, an argument could be made for a lot more vehicles to be included here than the ones which I am including, some of which I may not necessarily disagree with, but I've handpicked only the cars which I believe are, as far as I'm concerned, the worst in this regard. Because there are some vehicles that people just don't like and consider to be not very good, such as, for instance, the Jay Leno tank car. I can understand why people would say that they think that's a bad car. It has the biggest engine in the game, a huge amount of power, a huge amount of torque, and it's nowhere near as quick as you'd hope it is, and not very competitive in racing, all things considered. Especially for 1.6 million credits, or whatever the price is. So, surely it's a bad car. Well, I would say no, because for one thing it's unique, it's the only hot rod on the game, and it's also the largest engine vehicle in the game, and various other things add together to mean that even if it's not necessarily a good car, it's still unique enough to be worth buying. Other vehicles, though, they just do not bring anything decent to the table compared to better versions of that same car, such as in our first episode for the Audi R8 Chrome line. Again, not a bad car. It's got over 1100 horsepower, so it's not going to be slow. It's just not as good as the deal that you can get on the normal version. Now, with this particular pick, this is not an obvious choice to go for, because even the superior version, or what I consider to be the superior version of this car, is not really that popular a choice either. It's a Nismo vehicle based on the Fairlady or 350Z Nissan. Now, there are two versions of this car on the game. There's the S-Tune and the Z-Tune. And you would expect, and rightly so, the Z-Tune to be the superior of the two. It's a PD original, so a made-up vehicle, and it's designed, it even says in the description of the car, to be a further evolution of the concept. It costs 3 times the price. The S-Tune version is a 50 grand car, the Z-Tune is a 150 grand car. So you've gone from average import price on GranTurismo to literally super sports car price, or for instance low-level race car or even rally car price. So surely it must be significantly better. Well, let's compare the two. We're not told the engine spec itself for either vehicle in terms of capacity, but an interesting difference between the two is that one is turbo and one is supercharged. And the Z-Tune, which is the car featured in this B.O.A.T episode, the one which I would say is not worth buying, is the more powerful of the two. So how do the specs compare? We've already said that it's 3 times the price at 150 grand. We're not told the engine capacity, but you can assume it's probably a 3.5 or thereabouts, being based on the 350Z. And the S-Tune, which I'm saying is the superior car, produces 576 horsepower. Not phenomenal, but certainly not bad. This car puts out 635, so that sounds much more impressive. That's a significant amount more power, and that does just about bump it up into super sports territory. It also produces more torque, 10 pound-feet more at 493 pound-feet, which is also impressive. But it's significantly heavier. The S-Tune weighs 1,085 kilos, which is seriously good. This car weighs 1,162, so around 80 kilos heavier. Now that's still not overly heavy, but it's heavier, and that's kind of strange. It does put out slightly more horsepower per tonne at 546 compared to the normal car's 531. So there is a difference, but not a massive difference. And as far as PP, it's surprisingly, despite a massive increase in power, only 2 pp higher at 579 compared to the normal car's 577. So overall, it can seem that it's a little bit of a mix-up, really, between the two. Some have, or one of the two has better advantages over the other. One is lighter, one's more powerful. Surely they're just for different purposes. Well, not really. You would assume that, being that the Z-Tune is supposed to be the next level of this car's development, and it does have more power, more torque, and 3 times the price tag. But it also at the same time counteracts that by being significantly heavier. And not only is it heavier, it's slower. Despite having a significant amount more power, 635 compared to 576, you would expect the top speed to probably be around 10 to 15, maybe even 20 miles per hour quicker. It's actually slower by around 10 to 15 miles per hour. So not very impressive at all, and considering that the normal S-Tune isn't unfortunately among the fastest of imports anyway, that's not exactly good news. For its power, the Z-Tune is not a very quick car at all. The acceleration isn't that impressive, the top speed is certainly not impressive, and the handling is also hindered by the fact that it weighs more. Now, it does need to be stated, this is not a bad handling car. It actually handles very well and it is fun to drive. But the S-Tune is even better, and despite having less power, it's faster, also has less weight, which improves cornering, and is the better car overall by far. So, for a vehicle that costs 3 times the price and has more power, this just doesn't live up to what it should be. It's designed to be the better vehicle, but it's just not. So it's not a bad car, but I would recommend going for the S-Tune, which is the superior of the two. But that's it overall for this particular episode. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.